U.S. intelligence agencies released a report today warning that drought, flood, and a lack of fresh water may cause significant global instability in coming years. Keep in mind, 70% of global water goes into food production, which makes some very big companies vulnerable to a water crisis. Names like Smucker's, General Mills, and Cisco. Jonas Kron talks to these companies on behalf of investors at Trillium Asset Management. He joins us now from Portland, Oregon. Welcome to InBusiness. How much risk are we considering at this point?
Well, we're looking at a number of risks in the agricultural supply chain in particular, and we're talking to companies about that. I think one example of the risks that we're facing would be found in the coffee industry. Last year, Colombia, which is the third largest coffee producer, suffered serious flooding and heavy rainfalls, and that had a big dent in the coffee harvest, and that had some real impacts for Smucker's. Smucker's also felt it when it came to the drought in Texas related to peanuts and the cuts in the peanut crop there. So on both ends, both too much water and too little water, it can have some significant impacts.
Now, your firm, Trillium Asset Management, has about $1 billion under management, and you view this as enough of a risk that you're out there talking to some of these companies. Who do you think in these conversations is best prepared and has a sense of the risk that you see?
Well, we've had conversations with lots of different food companies, and I think the large beverage companies have sort of stepped up most quickly for obvious reasons. But other companies that we've been in contact with, like Smucker's and General Mills, have begun to really embrace the understanding the risks that are posed, and have been working both internally and with outside groups to get a better understanding of that. And for us, what we're really looking for is for companies to understand how to assess the risk, that is, how to measure it, and have some management systems in place for that risk, and really also some governance systems in place to make sure there's accountability for managing that risk. And then last but not least, we're starting to really encourage companies to have better disclosure about that water-related risk.
So how do you hedge against risk? There isn't really an active market for water futures, right?
Well, for these companies, and again, coming back to Smucker's, I think it's an interesting question. The question I get often is, well, when it comes to these crops, can't they just hedge and use their ability as traders on the commodities markets to deal with that? And I think that can only go so far, and to rely on your ability as a trader and hedging is really is notoriously difficult. And so what we're looking for is for companies to have a more robust risk management system where they can build a sustainable, secure, reliable supply chain for these agricultural products.
So how do they do that? Are you talking about actually creating, private water supply areas?
Well, no, it would be more, again, sticking with the idea of coffee, it would be a question of so Nestle, for example, another very large coffee company globally, they have a series of commitments to be sourcing their coffee that is being grown in a sustainable fashion, which is going to be more resilient to fluctuations in the hydrologic cycle, but also temperatures and pests and so forth. And then they're also going out there and working directly with farmers to be planting crops, to be planting coffee plantations with varieties of coffee that are going to be more resistant to these changes. So it's really a matter of becoming more involved with the supply chain, understanding the supply chain more closely. And it's probably also worth stressing that the coffee industry is really becoming aware of this. Today is UN Water Day, but it's also the first day of the National Coffee Association's annual convention. And at that convention, they're having two panels devoted exclusively to climate change issues. And as we know, water changes in the hydrologic cycle are really the way that climate change is going to be expressing itself in these crops.
All right, Jonas, thanks very much for giving us your sense of the risk and how companies should be preparing.